a patient who was also his lover, who was also his nurse, who had broken up from, and he was still having a child with, and still being her doctor. I mean, all that nonsense, shenanigans. I'll use the word shenanigans.
You're so judgmental, Drew.
No.
Yeah. What was he like?
There obviously were a number of ethical violations on his part, no doubt.
Yeah.
I may point out, just as an aside, that after he was arrested and he came up for a bond hearing, in the audience at the bond hearing was not only his wife, but his new girlfriend.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel here. Today I'm doing a true crime case video. Today I want to do the true crime case, the story of a jealous doctor called Richard Schmidt, Infects lover with HIV shot out of pure revenge, and a science deep dive into this. So let's get started into this video. So this case, this true crime case, has been featured in a number of media and TV. It is most significantly seen in the episode called Shot of Revenge that was seen in episode 9 of the season 8 of the true crime series, television series called Forensic Files. So let's get into the story. So background and story, around 1994, a 34-year-old nurse named Janice Trian was in a relationship with the man Richard, who was a doctor. He was much older than her, and she was younger than him. He was already married to Barbara. They both had 3 children. However, she was his mistress assistant for a decade. They were lovers. She even bore him a son, but in 1994, when Janice decided to break up with him, he exacted a terrible, vile revenge plot against her. According to the local true crime investigators and the police authorities in the area of Louisiana where this took place, he ended up injecting her with blood from an AIDS patient on purpose. His wife, Barbara, to this very day, still believes that her husband is innocent. She keeps a box of newspaper clippings and articles underneath her bed. Inside the box is articles and newspaper clippings of her husband's arrest, trial, and conviction for attempted murder. In her house as well is an office room where her husband used to study in his office and store things and files, aka the place where the evidence was collected from and used against him in the trial that ended up with him in prison. On a hot July day, 1995, she came home to find several plainclothes police officers with a search warrant rummaging through Richard's papers. She asked what they were looking for and what they were doing. They said they were just looking for evidence of B12. They were looking for proof. Claims his lover, Janice, was infected with the HIV shot virus from her ex-lover, Richard. According to the evidence and what Janice has told, Richard said that she said that Richard had entered her house on the night of August 4th, 1994. Soon after she had ended the relationship, she and her 3-year-old son were asleep in bed. He had woken her up saying he wanted to give her a vitamin B12 shot, something he had occasionally done during the relationship when she wasn't feeling well. She didn't really want the shot. She didn't want it at all, but he kept pressuring her into taking it and doing it. And eventually she gave in, and he pushed the needle into the muscle of her upper arm, depressed the plunger, and quickly left the house. After soon doing this, several months later, she started experiencing feeling ill and flu-like symptoms and tiredness, and was eventually diagnosed with HIV. She believed that her ex-lover, Richard, in a fit of jealousy and rage, had injected her with tainted blood from one of his AIDS patients that he was seeing. Barbara has a different recollection, that is Richard's wife, and she said on August 4th, 1994, she said and described to both the police and later the jury at her husband's trial that the family had recently returned home from a trip to Florida and how he had hurt his back. When the police searched Richard's office, however, they found something very strange. Buried beneath a mound of old files was the notebook in which his nurses had recorded the previous summer's blood draws and other lab work. Curiously, the notebook was only half full. The final entry showed that an HIV-positive patient had come in and he had taken his patient's blood with or without the help of a contraceptive nurse, and kept the vial hidden so he can use on his former lover. Still, the evidence was circumstantial. In this true crime case, one of the nurses that he employed in her testimony described the notebook as just a jot sheet, not an official record. The prosecuting attorney, Keith's statues needed harder proof, more evidence. Just over a decade earlier, in 1983, scientists had invented a technique known as polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, which made it possible to copy DNA from tiny samples of blood or tissue in larger quantities to study. Long story short, the HIV strand that Janus had matched the sick patients that he had wrote in the notebook. On July 23rd, 1996, a year after the police searched his home, the doctor was arrested on charges of attempted murder. Richard's trial began in mid-October 1998. Janice Allen describes her bad relationship and toxic relationship with the jury, saying that he was obsessed, jealous, controlling, and volatile, and had bad tempers and that type of behavior. The extremely painful shot he had forced upon her by pressuring her to do the shot. On October 23rd, 1908, the jury found Richard guilty of attempted second-degree murder. He was later given 50 years in prison. He has tried to appeal his case multiple times, mostly on the bias of alleged flawed planogenetic evidence, like faulty scientific evidence. In 2000, the Louisiana Court of Appeals denied his request, finding that the circumstantial evidence was enough to eliminate reasonable doubt, even without the science. 2 years later, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear his case, offering no comment for its decision on the case of his case, Richard. The Louisiana Supreme Court denied another appeal in 2005, and Richard and his attorneys still to this day continue to fight the verdict, though they are unlikely to succeed or win. He will be eligible for early release in 2023.